Sales Flair, and this is Founder Coffee. Every 2 weeks, I have coffee with a different founder. We discuss life, passions, learnings, in an intimate talk, getting to know the person behind the company. For the second episode, I talked with Hubert Palan of Prodigboard. I met Hubert about a year and a half ago at TechCrunch Disrupt at San Francisco, and I've been considering using Prodigboard to professionalize product management at Sales Flair ever since. Hubert is a product guy and a thinker at heart. His vision is more excellent products through better product management. We mainly talk about what motivates him, how he manages Prodigboard, and where he looks for inspiration. Welcome to Founder Coffee. Hi Hubert, great to have you on Founder Coffee.
Hi.
You are founder of Prodigboard. For those who don't know Prodigboard yet, what does your company do?
Sure. Yeah, thanks for having me. This is a pleasure. At Prodigboard, we help product teams and product makers make really excellent products, products that matter to people. And that's kind of a visionary statement. What it means in day-to-day is that our customers, product teams at some of the leading companies out there use us to centralize research and user feedback and understand what really matters to their customers by the means of having a centralized repository for insights from the market and customers and prospects and what sales team is hearing, what customer success or customer support team, professional services teams are hearing. And then based on that, prioritize ideas, feature requirements, organize them in a hierarchy that's actually manageable, unlike flat backlog somewhere in Jireh. You can create an organized hierarchy in Prodigboard and then put it on the roadmap and make sure that everyone around the company is aligned about what's being built and why. And we also have a portal that our customers can set up to collect insights from their customers kind of without doing the interviews or without talking with customers directly. So it kind of helps you collect the insights at scale.
Yeah. Cool. So in short, it kind of centralizes and professionalizes product.
It's a CRM. It's a CRM for product management.
Yeah.
If you want to put it in a very short way. So, product managers at Zendesk or Shopify are our customers, and that's their go-to tool. Every day they go there and they go to find out what's new, what customers are saying. If they want to make a prioritization decision, they see all the features that are being considered, and then ultimately, what's the prioritized, what's the status, how it's progressing. So it's product brain of the company.
Yeah, and you don't need to use different tools to manage all these things.
Correct.
Yeah.
No spreadsheets, no PowerPoints, no, Evernote notes, emails floating everywhere. It's all in one place.
Got it. Is your personal background in product management or?
Yeah. So, I got master's in computer science and software engineering and then MBA at Berkeley. So I kind of bridged the tech and business worlds. And I spent several years in kind of product management roles, first in consulting at Accenture in Prague. But then here after business school in the Valley, a couple of startups, and then at a company called Data, where I grew to be VP of products. And so that's the reason why Prodigboard exists, because I was a product manager myself and I kind of understood the pain. Yeah. And I figured, hey, let's change that.
Yeah.
Let's solve the pain.
At what exact moment was it that you decided to start Prodigboard? What were you working on? Where were you? With whom?
Sure. Yeah, you said you wanted to go personal and deeper, so let me start there, because I've always been inspired by people who create great products and really excellent products who resonate with people, not just on the functional level, not just on okay, this works well, but also on the emotional level, on the level where it actually invokes positive emotions. And so I read all the books and everything I could find on people like Steve Jobs, obviously, but also Phil Knight at Nike and Disney as a company, and even other CEOs of fast growing startups, and especially those that have some strong brand or have some emotional appeal. And the inspiration for me was I always thought, what it must have been like when Steve Jobs walked on the stage and launched the first iPhone. And I know that Apple is obviously overused analogy, but the thought there was how was the sense of pride and fulfillment and accomplishment, because the whole team knew that this is gonna fundamentally change lives of so many people. Mm-hmm. And the reason why they knew was because they really understood very well the needs of the customers, because they spent so many times analyzing and prototyping and testing and tinkering with so many different versions, and they really put a lot of effort and a lot of focus into creating something delightful. And that's something that I always was wondering. And then when I after business school, and after Steve Blank, the founder of Lean Startup, was my professor at Berkeley, and so it was the whole Lean Startup movement was happening, and get out of the building and talk with customers and all that. And I got super excited, and then I kind of the reality hit here, and I started discovering what it's really like at many of the companies here, even in the heart of Silicon Valley. And I found that most companies are driven by sales, like, hey, we sold a deal, and there's a feature request, and let's just build it, whatever, or by engineering, where you're building stuff just because you think it's cool, but you don't really know whether someone needs it.
Totally.
And in the company where I was at, Good Data, we were building cool BI platform, but the culture was predominantly sales culture, and I was frustrated by that. I wanted to kind of make sure that the decisions are based on the understanding of real customer needs, as opposed to what was sold by the sales team that just they would sell it to anybody.
Yeah.
And so that was the inspiration. The inspiration was, hey, let's create a system. And of course, if you have a founder who just tells you, shut up, and this is what you need to do, and that's how product management is done, then you're kind of stuck. And you first need to figure out how to, create a moment of revelation, or enlightenment first, and then slowly go and change the culture throughout the company and change it into kind of the product driven, the customer driven, right? Make sure that you understand that you have the deep insight, and that you have solid product strategy, and then you can execute. Anyway, long answer, but that was the motivation. So the company where I was at was a B2B SaaS company, $100 million or $75 million raised by the time I left, and recent Horowitz and top investors. And I got to see many of our customers' business, because we're a BI platform. So I would interact on a daily basis with senior leadership at other companies who were analyzing their own businesses. And so I got to see how they operate and how they run their product teams as well.
Yeah.
And so that was the motivation. I thought, come on, we have all these task management tools like Jira and Pivotal Tracker that are great for engineering, but there's nothing that would help you with deciding what should be on top of the backlog in the first place.
Yeah, exactly. You have a tool to manage your customers, one to manage your development, but the product management kind of falls in between.
Yeah. Where's the system where you have, in the most engineering task management systems, you have entities in the logical model, like feature, story, task, it's all solution centric. It's all, okay, here's the solution space. Here are all the features that you want to build. Let's break them down into manageable chunks, and let's push them through the engineering pipeline. Mm-hmm. But there's no entity of a customer, of a need or problem, of an importance or urgency, competitor, none of the stuff that product management is tracking isn't represented in the fundamental in the logical data model of those systems. Mm-hmm. You have some of the stuff in CRM systems, there you have customers, but it's very sales focused. It's about what happens before they become customer, and it's the stages and so on. Yeah. So that was the motivation. That was the motivation for me. Create a system that will, I told that story with Steve Jobs, create a system that will help people have this little bit sense of pride and accomplishment for every feature that you launch as a product person. have something that will back your decisions, have something that will give you confidence, or something that will create transparency around the whole team. And I mean, look, like during the process of building products, people make decisions throughout the whole development life cycle, product development life cycle. From the initial research stages, and then design and testing and development and product marketing and the whole go-to-market. And if everyone throughout this life cycle isn't very well aligned around what are the needs of the customers, and if all the people don't understand very well the customers, what matters to them, then they will inevitably make the wrong decisions throughout the product development process. Like, maybe they choose the wrong copy in the UX because, they don't understand the tone that they should be talking to.
Got it.
Maybe they design the feature in a little different way that is optimal, or that because they don't understand how, especially if the designer is not the user, if you're building like a B2B system and, you're designing system for someone who is not you, then it's more difficult. And so, creating this shared understanding for everyone on the team, only then the excellent products can happen.
It's a nice.
And I talked to a guy who was he's an advisor of mine, and he was at Apple 20 years ago. He was on the QA team there, and he said, "Look, the difference there was that typically the QA quality assurance team, the responsibility is, look, here's the spec and test it against the spec, right? Does it work as specified?" He said that the difference there when he was there was that his job wasn't to sign off on the spec. His job was to sign off on, is the customer going to use it the way it's built?
Yeah.
And that creates a very different mindset, because suddenly you are asked to think about what matters to the customers and the real use case, the real flow, as opposed to just what's in the spec. And so it's a subtle shift, but it has major implications if we create a culture like that.
Yeah. We try to cope with it personally by we have issues and features, and that is understandable for development teams. But then there's an in between point. Where it's not broken, it's not we intend to make it like that, but there's this a UX improvement, we call it, and this is a different type of development jobs we have, is actually making sure that we built it the way that people will actually use it or adapt it the way they would like to, and we take these things more seriously than issues even sometimes.
Yeah. Good. Glad to hear that.
We're still doing it without Prodigboard, but we're looking at it.
Sure. You'll come around eventually.
Yeah.
Everyone will.
Have you always known that you wanted to do a startup, or is it something that just came when you were at that BI company? What was the name actually of the BI?
Good Data. Good Data. They're still around. Yeah. We use them. I mean, there's some very relevant use cases. They have a good product for some of them. I don't know. I mean, have I always known? Of course, I didn't know. Like anything in life. Like, are you asking me at the age of 8? Did you know that?
Always. I know. But always. I mean, from the moment you were actually thinking about professional stuff. Is it something like, I want to start my own company, or did this just come at some moment you're like, I need to break out and start a company?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it was on the back of my mind, but the environment where I grew up, like I grew up in Czechoslovakia and then Czech Republic, right? Yeah. I'm almost 40. I'll be 40 this year. And so it wasn't the most entrepreneurial culture to start with, right? So when I got out of college or my master's, I was like, hey, what am I gonna do? I studied computer science, so I wanted to be in the digital world. But then I figured like I want to see how companies are run and how companies operate, and that's why I went to consulting and I joined Accenture as like a system integration consulting, and then switched to like business strategy consulting, but still within, you know, in the technical realm. And then at that moment when I started like seeing how it works at like banks and insurance companies, and these are like large corporations, right? Then I feel like, oh my God, this is terrible, and things can be done so much better. And that was a motivation for me to like, okay, I'm gonna build my own company one day. And I hated, you know, politics, and I hated. I always wanted to be at a company where everyone, including the janitors, would be proud to be working for the company, and where people would be identified with the vision and mission, and you know what I mean. I never understood people who work at companies just for the money. It's like, why don't you go do something that you actually love and make money? Of course, like in our world, we're lucky in that sense that, you know, if you're an artist, it's harder, right, to make money doing what you love. In tech, obviously, that's kind of you get both.
Yeah, we can do what we love and earn money if we're successful. Well,
right. It's a big if, but
they're also there, but they're much smaller.
Yeah. The scale. It's the aspect of scale.
Yeah.
So
and it's maybe also more objective than being an artist. As an artist, you create something, and if you can convince people that it's nice, well, probably in our trade there's much more of a. If you build a nice product, at least you have a bigger chance of being successful. Or don't you think so? Do you think it's all marketing?
No. I mean, I think that in products, the art, that's kind of the emotional side. And, you know, you kind of create, taste is acquired, but it's also, you can also influence taste of other people. If you're consistent, if you have a strong vision, and, you know, so I like creating things that are practical, not just, you know, like both functional and emotional, that solve problems. And so that's why, I mean, I love art and architecture and design just like as a discipline. But ultimately I want to see it applied to something that advances, you know, people's lives. So yeah.
You started as a business consultant, and you like art and architecture. Is this something that comes from your family or parents, or?
Yeah, probably. I mean, so now we're going really deep. I mean, my great grandfather was a diplomat, and you know, he died in a concentration camp during the Nazi Germany. And then my mom was in marketing. She ran marketing for Hewlett-Packard in Czech Republic, Slovakia, and then Olympus. And so I've always thought about the soft side of things more than your typical techie guy. And like empathy and emotions. You know, in product management, I just think it's so important. And I talk to many product managers that are very analytical and, you know, kind of very, again, functional oriented. Let's solve the problem, but they're forgetting. And look at the companies around us. There's not that many companies, especially in Silicon Valley. I actually think that fast moving consumer good companies, you know, the P&Gs and so on, they're much better in general in the discipline of product management, and they've been doing research and making sure that they understand the needs, and they've been thinking about emotions. But in the tech world, it hasn't been the case. Even brands like big successful companies like Salesforce, they have huge followership. But if I say Salesforce, does it make you feel warm and fuzzy or something? You know, like it's not like if I say Nike, you have an emotional reaction. If I say Apple, you have an emotional reaction. Zendesk had a great brand with the Buddha and kind of Zen, because that resonated so well with the customer support people, right? Where you're under stress and people complain unless your product is excellent or service. But there's not that many. Intercom is doing a great job. It's like being human, you know. But there's not that many companies like that. The kind of traditional brand emotional marketing in a good sense, in a good sense of in a good meaning of the word, hasn't been, you don't see it that much. It's okay. It's the functional benefits mostly.
Yeah. Maybe that has a bit to do with the type of companies they're marketing to. If you like Salesforce, you market to enterprises. They find specs lists interesting. While small companies will go much more for the more consumer type kind of marketing,
Sure.
where you have emotions and not
and
ROI or something.
Totally, I get it, and I of course you can say that in enterprise and in B2B, the customer is not the user, like the buyer is not the user, and therefore it's much more about functional requirements. And of course, it is the case if you're selling large enterprise deals, you're dealing with procurement people, and that's a different persona. At the same time, I think that the consumerization of the enterprise is happening. And like I just read this article just last week in HBR, Harvard Business Review. It was like a pyramid of needs, and you still have the emotional aspects high up, right? Like the sense of pride and showing others that you're competent and just like striving at your job and feeling amazing. It's important even in the enterprise, and I think that it's changing more and more. Mm-hmm. And you see it. The really in the long term, the user experience, I believe, is the only sustainable competitive advantage. Because functional aspects can be copied and are being copied more and more and faster and faster. But the emotional piece, the appeal, how it makes you feel, and what you kind of believe in while you're using the tool, that's something that's much, much harder to copy. And look at Apple. That's been their play all along. That's of course the products are great in terms of functionality as well, but the emotional appeal, the delight that it creates, that's and of course it's a different segment. There's multiple segments in the market. Not everyone is their ideal target customer, and not everyone cares about that. But for the segment that they go after, it matters a lot. And then it's just you match the features, but you don't match the emotional appeal. And the people are not going to switch.
Cool. Which other startup or founder do you look up to, and why is that?
I mean, I mentioned the kind of the big guys, the big successful companies, because there's a long history of what you can study. Mm-hmm. And there's a history of what they did and how it turned out, and of course the hindsight is always 20/20, and you kind of forget the bad things, and maybe you connect the dots in a more idealistic way that it really happened. Yeah. But still, there's more to study. So that's why I mentioned companies like Nike, Apple, and even I mentioned Zendesk and Intercom. Yeah. That's inspiring. I mean, Intercom team is inspiring to me. I'll also look though, like, to companies that are in different industries, not necessarily just who's around here in the Valley, but I put together this blog post that is on my Medium. I collected videos of like 20 top unicorn companies, CEOs, and I put it all on this one feed, and I watched it. I mean, I really wanted to see how the CEOs and founders of all these top companies, maybe it was 40, I don't remember, how they are, and I wanted to see them. I wanted to see them speak in real life, because there's so much more you can kind of get, the sense of who they are as people. So.
You'll be happy to follow this series as well. Then, the founder of Intercom, well, one of them at least, Des Trainer, is also going to be on.
Yeah, I know Des. Des is great.
It's going to be cool.
Yeah, I just read this book called Mastery, and there's a lot of examples and case studies about like the biggest people overall, right? There's like the biggest inventors and like stories of like the biggest people of humanity, right? Like anyway, so I wanted to say that I look for examples of people that I know were amazing, and I spend more time studying them. And I obviously see founders around me who I think are real and good people. But for me personally, the biggest inspiration comes from people that really dedicated their lives. Whether it's in medicine or architecture or biology, it doesn't matter. But the passion and the focus and the excitement with which they live their lives, and how they really stay focused, and they didn't waste their life doing things that are not important or just like fun. They really realize that life is short and that we need to work hard. And so writers and artists, like the sense of, again, it comes down to excellence for me, and the strive for excellence in everything that you do. So sorry that I didn't give you examples of like recent startup founders that I find inspiring. But like Darwin was super inspiring to me. What he did and the persistence. Yeah.
That's cool. So in terms of how this reflects on your ambitions, where do you want to go with Prodigboard? Is it you want to make it really big, or you want?
Yeah, I mean, I think we are creating a whole new category, because this is the product management discipline is at the heart of every company, whether you're creating like digital products or physical products or even services. You are combining the deep customer insight, your strategic approach to how you're gonna get to where you want to go, like how you're gonna follow the vision, the picture perspective, and then the execution. And at every company, there's people who are making like product decisions, right? And it doesn't have to be necessarily someone who has a product manager title, but there are people who make product decisions. And so I think that the market for us is huge, in the sense that whenever we have customers who are not just digital. Our ideal customers are people who are making digital products. Don't take me wrong, like SaaS product or e-commerce platform, or you're building an app, and kind of the fact that software is eating the world and that everything's being digitized helps us. And there's a lot of digital product managers, but we even have customers who, like an RV manufacturer up in Canada, or exoskeleton device company, because physical products, you collect feedback and you improve them as well. You have more constraints. So the reason why I'm saying it is that the market in this sense is big, and product management is kind of one of the last functions in a company that hasn't had a very good tool set, right? Like if you look at, you have CRMs, and you have engineering task management tools, and you have like Workday is in the HR realm, right? And then you have obviously all the like analytics, business intelligence stuff. Then you have marketing automation, you have customer success. All these fields have a dedicated software to help you do the job better. But product management doesn't. Product management has been stuck. And so I think that we have a potential to really own this category. Product excellence. I want companies to think about product management as product excellence.
So
because
your ambition is basically to professionalize product management and have the world with great products. Like
there is it's a discipline. Like look, you're an expert in sales, right? Think before CRM, how sales was done. You would have a spreadsheet, you would have a Rolodex, you would have business cards, and you would just try not to forget things. Mm-hmm. And then CRMs, customer relationship management systems, standardized the process, created transparency, increased predictability, lowered the risk that you're not going to hit your number because you have a system in place. And of course, you always have genius outliers, who will sell because they're just charming and they are the outliers. But most of your sales team is gonna sell well if they have a good process, if they're consistent, and if they do the hard work, right? And then you follow up and you do the day-to-day. And in product management, it's the same thing. I'm not saying that because of a system you will suddenly turn into Apple and you will be churning out the best of the best products. But I'm saying that thanks to a solution like Prodigboard for product excellence, the chances of launching to the market better products and the chances of eliminate the risk and increasing the predictability of success are going to go up. Mm-hmm. Like in sales, like in customer support, if you suddenly have a system, it's organized, there's transparency. If a product manager leaves your team, the knowledge stays in the company, doesn't walk out of the door. All that is contributing. So that's I think is a big opportunity for us.
Yeah, totally. No, it's very nice. It would be great if more software products would actually be better products.
Yeah, I tell you what, software is hard in the sense that it has much lower constraints than hardware products. Because if you have, there's this joke in the design world, right? There's always this picture floating around with a remote control with 100 buttons of it or whatever, 20 buttons on it. And that really you need just two to change the channels and change the volume or something like that. And so, of course, you can kind of screw up and you can create an overcomplicated product even in the physical world. But in the software world, you don't have the physical boundaries, and it feels easy and cheap to just shove another feature into the product and kind of think that's okay, not everyone will use it. And that's the danger, and that's why it's harder, because the constraints are much more relaxed. And if you do it right, you can actually create infinite variations of your product, and the user experience wouldn't be impacted for any of the customer segments that you're serving, as long as they wouldn't be exposed to the complexity of all the different variations. Mm-hmm. The only problem is, and it is theoretically achievable. The only problem is that it's very difficult to create a product like that and make sure that the features are really hidden completely, so that you don't end up with the ribbon in Microsoft Office, right, where you have so much stuff and you don't need most of it. So if I didn't see it, if I'm not the type of customer who needs it, I shouldn't even see it, and then it's fine. But that's not the reality. That's not how the software products are built these days, unfortunately.
Yeah, they're more built to show a lot of features that people are looking for instead of making it easy to actually use those features.
Yeah, most products, not all of them. There are exceptions, but most.
Yeah, of course. Cool. Do you think that if you win the lottery tomorrow, you'd still be working at Prodigboard? Or would you choose to do something else?
It's a baby. And you know it as a founder. It's your baby. And you want to see it grow up. Mm-hmm. And so I want to see it grow up. If I win a lottery, I might raise less money from VCs and put the lottery winning into my company. But I really like what I'm doing. I believe in the vision.
Cool.
Maybe I wouldn't put all my money in. I actually, I read the previous interview that you did, and you guys talked about VC funding and all that. And I actually like the aspect of bringing VCs on, not just because of the money, but I believe that your chances of succeeding are higher if you share the success, and if you involve more people, and if you interest more people in your success. Mm-hmm. And I found the investors that I've had so far helpful in that regard, that more people are basically on your team, and more people are trying hard. And of course, like it's got trade-offs, and basically it's like you're losing control and all that. But the fact that more people are invested into your success, I think it's a huge deal.
Yeah. Do you think they're really invested in your success? Are they not more invested in their overall portfolio than in specific cases?
Well, I mean, their success is, of course, like they look at it from portfolio perspective. Mm-hmm. They need someone in the portfolio to succeed, and then the portfolio math works out, and they can deliver the ROI they promise to the investors. So mm-hmm. that's obviously driving it. But that means that they want you to succeed because they want you to be the successful company in the portfolio. Mm-hmm. So I think that from that perspective, the incentives are aligned, and I don't see friction there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. What is it that you're busy with right now? What keeps you up at night lately? Like, for Prodigboard?
I sleep well. I kind of managed to get my life under control, and I managed to distance myself from the stress, which obviously there's huge business stress and so many things are happening at the same time. Mm-hmm. But I kind of told myself that if I'm gonna be worried about it, and if I'm gonna be stressed out, and like, don't take me wrong, I was so stressed, like in the early days of the company. There was so much pressure, right? And like everyone tells you you're nuts, like this is never gonna work. And then I joked about it. It's like, you have a baby, you just had a new baby, and you're walking around and showing it to people, and some people say, "Oh my God, this is so beautiful, and congratulations, and I wish you lots of health," and so on. But with the early stage startup, unfortunately, there's more people who look at the baby and say, "Oh man, I'm sorry that the baby's so sick, and it's not looking good, right?" And so you kind of need to get over it. But right now, we're doing well and we're growing, and so that stress went away a little bit. And as I said, I managed to distance myself from the day to day, and I have a very strict schedule that I stick to. Like I planned all my work time, family time, friend time. I have everything on my calendar, and I follow the schedule, and then I don't feel like not attending to my family or vice versa to my business, because I made the conscious decision how much time I'm going to dedicate to each. And of course, it's not ideal, right? Like it's sometimes you need to break the rules, but it just gives me this confidence that I get up at 5 and I go for a run, and then I go to the office, and then I have mornings that I have meetings, and then in the afternoon I have like a block for our time. There's this great book called The One Thing that inspired me to do all this. And I have like an uninterrupted block of time for the most important thing that I'm working on every day. And then, I schedule time to wrap up and plan. And it really helped me. I've been doing it for several months now, and I love it. It made me. I think it's called The One Thing.
And who is it written by? Any idea, or should I look it up?
I don't remember it.
Okay, I will look it up. So you get up at 5, you said?
Yeah. Well, the book is Gary W. Keller and Jay Papasan, The One Thing.
Okay.
Because I'm here in San Francisco, and we are distributed, and so my team is in part of the team is in Prague, the Czech Republic, And so I need to have a, overlap with Europe. And I mean, in SaaS business, like you have customers all around the world. So, that kind of dictates my schedule. And so I basically decided I'm going to get up, I'm going to be on the early morning schedule, and then I'm going to, go to bed early. And I also have a 2-year-old baby boy, so you can't sleep in the morning anyway.
Yeah, so you kind of align with the baby.
Exactly.
Yeah. At what time do you go to bed then? Do you sleep 8 hours or?
I try to, yeah. So like I shoot for 9, oftentimes it's 10, but I shoot for 8 hours. I just think it's, you're more productive. And I've done my crazy years where I didn't sleep much, and I saw the toll, the physical, penalty, and then you make more mistakes and you don't think so clearly, and it's not worth it. It's not worth it. And I kind of came to terms, like I said, look, when I work, I'm going to put the most and like best of my skills and effort into it. And at the end of the day, what I achieved is what I could have achieved. And like, of course you can always spend more time, but you can do it tomorrow and not, instead of sleeping, because, and again, if there's a big launch, like we had a big product hunt launch in November, and, that was a big deadline, and, we didn't sleep and, all that, but that's like an exception. It's an exception. You don't do that on a regular basis. Yeah.
So what do you do to stay sane? You go running, you said? Do you do things also, or is that the thing that works?
I run. Yeah, I run and I work out. After my run, there's like this little playground by the lake. I run around and I do, squats and push-ups, and pull-ups, and all that stuff. And then, I mean, the other relaxation is time with my kid and my wife. It's amazing.
Cool.
It's a different world. And my wife, she's a nurse practitioner, which is it's kind of like a physician, family doctor. And that gives me also a perspective, because I come from work and I complain like, like this customer is making it so difficult, and the legal contracts, it's there's so much friction, or like I had a bad interview with someone, and she looks at me and she tells me how people are struggling in their lives and dying, and it's a completely different perspective, and so that keeps me in check as well. It's kind of like brings me to reality, and it's not just about making products, obviously, and that vision that I have is it's a big vision, but at the end of the day, you're in a society with the people, or like politics. I pay attention to politics a lot because it just frustrates me that there's so many things that could be done better. Anyway, so it's just like I spend time on that, even though I wouldn't say that politics is relaxing. It's not helping me to relax. No, unfortunately. Yeah.
At this point in your startup, what are the responsibilities that you mainly take up? What do you spend your day on?
Sure. I mean, mostly it's hiring, because we're growing and we just need help on so many fronts. So I spend most of my time hiring, and then I still, we're like 25, I think, right now. And so we still don't have processes for everything. And some of the like more complex legal stuff, I need to be involved and, review contracts. And I like to understand everything that's happening in the company. Maybe I should be delegating that more, but I just don't feel comfortable leaving it just to the lawyers. And so I actually, take the time to really understand every negotiation point that we're discussing with our large enterprise customers.
Yeah.
So I spend time on that. But that would be like, the biggest things would be hiring, complex contracts, and then of course like processes, and then big chunk is communication, and especially on the distributed team. We have like regular updates, and I make sure that everyone understands what's happening in the company, and that sometimes, and especially if it's distributed teams, and I've seen this, the different teams kind of create their own culture, and there's a danger that like the engineers would start looking down at marketers as like, engineering is the hard shit and stuff. So pardon. But marketing is the easy stuff. And I don't agree with that at all. I think that every part of the company contributes, and I want everyone to understand what's happening. And so we take the time to communicate what's happening, what every team is doing, and making sure that everyone understands the complexities, and everyone can come up with ideas how to improve anything anywhere, whether it's marketing, sales, support, engineering, design. So I spend a lot of time on that, making sure that I kind of know who heard what, and making sure that everyone's involved.
Yeah.
So those would be probably the biggest areas.
Yeah. What are the main processes you use or tools you use to do this? Do you have things like stand-up meetings? Do you use Slack?
Yeah. So we're on Slack. Everything's on Slack. We have regular all hands on a weekly basis. Yeah. The weekly, on monthly frequency, the all hands is more detailed and longer, and there is kind of like wrap up for every month and progress towards the bigger objectives. But on a weekly basis, it's a little more tactical. And then we have a product call where we discuss product specific things. We have a customer success call. We have a marketing call. So all the different parts of the business. But then one thing that we started doing that I really like is that every team sends every day a very short daily update into a Slack channel with just few bullet points of the main things that they achieved that day. And so that's a way for everyone in the company to quickly read it every day in the morning. For me, it's in the morning. In Europe, it's in the afternoon. But to read it and kind of get a pulse of what's happening in the company. Yeah. And I found, and it's been really working well. From my perspective, I feel like I know what's happening, and I highly recommend doing that.
Yeah, so that's kind of like a stand-up meeting, but then on a team level instead of an individual level.
Yeah, but it's asynchronous, right? So people, when they finish their day, it's not stand-up meeting in the sense that everyone's in the room and standing and kind of.
Yeah, but stand-up meetings can be asynchronous as well. Here in the office, we do it synchronous, but you can use a software like Stand-Uply, and you could do it synchronous, and then you just basically do it electronically like you're doing, and it tracks your progress over time.
Okay.
What you've been doing the day before, what you're going to do the next day, and that way everyone is up to speed with what's happening.
What's it called? Stand-Uply?
Stand-Uply, yeah. They're pretty cool guys, I think, from Greece. I met them at a few conferences.
All right. Yeah, I remember. I saw it somewhere. I'll check it out.
Yeah, it's pretty. We also spend a lot of time communicating, because it's really important that everybody knows what everybody's up to. So you need to work as a team. But you mostly talked about communicating, the planning on which what's the schedule for the planning? Do you do it bi-weekly, monthly?
Sure. Yeah. We have 3 teams right now. This changes. So on big picture, we plan in 6-week cycles. Yep. And the 6-week cycle, we always set like big initiatives or objectives that we want to achieve. Mm-hmm. And then the different teams, each team has this one big objective, one big area of focus towards which we prioritize and then plan the tasks. And then, of course, along the line, there's always like a continuous stream running in parallel, like opportunistic picks. I call that initiative, which is something that, okay, maybe we'll prioritize something over like higher up, as long as it's aligned with the strategy and kind of the direction that we're going, but maybe you just like switch the order. So that goes into the prioritization. And then there's also bugs, and there's like, regulatory things, right? That's compliance, and now GDPR is happening. And so all that stuff is running, or something that's external, like a partner of ours is going to be doing a big launch and they need us to prepare something. So, and things often happen at the last minute. So that's something that we like then try to squeeze in, obviously. But the 6-week cycle, it's and then in Prodigboard, right? Like raising Prodigboard. So we have all the initiatives side by side in columns. It's like a matrix, right? So you have all the initiatives side by side, and then in rows you have all the tasks, all the features that we're working on, and you see which feature contributes to which initiative, and you see whether it's a must-have or should-have or nice-to-have. And then we also have next to it like columns with progress. And so you have this one big picture view of everything that's happening across all the teams. And it scales beautifully. Even if you had 10 teams, you can just have them side by side and you see it all in one place.
Yeah.
And you can filter it, and you can of course like slice and dice it the way you want. But that's how we run it.
So everybody can see what everybody's up to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So you're working in 3 locations, you said, or?
Well, right now, technically, we have people in Prague, the Czech Republic, San Francisco, and Boston.
Yeah.
So
why
that's
Boston?
We just found a teammate who lives there, and she's great.
Okay.
So, she reached out to us, and she's in Boston. So that's the way it is. And, some of I should add that right now, two of our developers are in Sri Lanka working remotely. And, they're taking some time off as well, but otherwise they're working remotely. And, it's kind of like the digital nomad approach. And it's not like they do it all the time, but, as long as they commit and deliver, my attitude is I don't care where you are in the world.
So is it different teams that are located in different places? Is development in Prague, customer service in?
No. So I mean, when I said teams, we have now 3 teams. So that team is it's like product management, UX, and engineering together as one team. So and it's like cross-functional. Ideally, we would have also product marketing on all the teams, but that's a shared function right now. Mm-hmm. And then, so that's how I envision to grow the company. We might add a team like that here in the US, but it would again be the whole team: product management, engineering, and design all together. I've seen at my previous company, we had the separation was product management in the US and engineering, and some of the design or most of the design in Europe. Mm-hmm. And it's not optimal because you need a super short feedback loop within the team. And so I think Zendesk, they did it differently. They had the team. They still have, I believe, teams in Denmark, but they have a whole team there. Or like Intercom, when you talk with Des, you can ask him about it. Like they had like the onboarding or growth team, I think, here in San Francisco. And they had, product management and design and engineering together here. And then other teams like the platform team and, the other products that they have were co-located in Ireland, rather than separating it by role, co-locate people by teams.
Yeah. Got it.
So that's how we're going to do it as well.
Yeah. And did you start off in Prague and then you moved to San Francisco, or
No. I got here 10 years ago for my MBA at Berkeley, and then stayed afterwards. But I found a co-founder coincidentally. As how things are in life, right? I was a judge on this startup competition in Prague years ago, I met Daniel there. And then when I started looking for a co-founder, I wasn't sure where, like location wise, but I reached out to my network and he said, hey, I'm looking for a new opportunity. I would love to join you and work on this.
Yeah.
And it started like, I was still at Good Data then. And I posted on Facebook, it's like, a friend of mine is looking for a co-founder or like, for his startup, kind of like secretly. And but then, that's how it started. We started working together and it just went from there. So Daniel's now in Prague. Travel back and forth, but that's how it's set up.
So you didn't consciously choose the 2 locations of the company and Boston neither, it just happened.
Yeah, it's just life.
Yeah.
It's just life.
Nice. Let's start wrapping up. We're almost at 1 hour.
Cool.
What is the latest book you've read and why did you choose to read it?
So I'm kind of like reading multiple books because some I read for enjoyment. So the book Mastery that I just mentioned, I'm almost done with it. It's like at the very end of it. And I really liked it. Again, like we talked about it already, but it's so inspirational to hear stories of people who really achieve mastery in their lives and like really make things happen. I read a lot of sales books recently. Here on my desk, I have the Sales Acceleration Formula, which is the story of how they build sales at HubSpot. I listen to books. So that's what I like, when I go for the run, I run 5K 3 times a week. And so I listen to audiobooks. Let me quickly pull up what's there. So it's like the Challenger Sale, the Sales Acceleration Formula I mentioned, spin selling, sell or be sold. So I read all these sales books recently. Yeah. And then there's some stuff like I haven't read Alibaba, the house that Jack Ma built. So I have this lined up to read. Then I found this book Insanely Simple, which is the obsession that drives Apple's success that I haven't read. So I'm definitely going to read that. So it's it's mostly business books, but I try to sneak in some like more Sapiens, great book, A Brief History of Humankind. I read that was awesome.
Yeah, I still want to read it as well.
Yeah. So design books, I bought this book. It's another book that I have on my desk. It's called 100 Things Every Designer Needs to Know About People. And I decided that I'm going to read now for 20 days, like 5 points every day. And then I'm going to get through it in 20 days. So let's see how that goes. I literally brought it yesterday or 2 days ago. So and I listen to audiobooks like double speed or 1.5 or 1 3/4 to save time, train my brain to do that. So I really enjoy that.
Mm-hmm. Is there anything you wish you'd have known when you started out?
Oh man, there's so many things. Like it's just
one thing.
One thing.
First thing that comes to mind.
I don't know. I kind of. One thing that I'm still struggling with when I'm hiring people, I always still judge people or I evaluate them. Like I think of them as myself, and I need to keep reminding myself that different roles need different people. Mm-hmm. And so I know that this is kind of like a vague thing, but this is like you asked me. So I have like 3 interviews after this call. Mm-hmm. And I'm hiring even like some very junior people right out of college. And I really need to remind myself what it was like when I was 23. Mm-hmm. And, everything was new to me because I tend to treat everyone as equal. And like my expectation is that people know that they have a lot of experience already. And I just like keep need to keep reminding myself, that it's not the case, and that that people are different in that sense. And so it's just like, you ask me, the first thing that comes to my mind is just like, because I'm right now in this hiring mode.
No, it's good advice. Hiring is not an easy thing to do correctly. In terms of advice, also, what's the best piece of advice you ever got?
I remember piece of advice that I got is to constantly like build networks and partner with people and just nurture relationships. Mm-hmm. And that's definitely something that like paid off so much in my life. I just mentioned Daniel, my co-founder, right? I met him because I did this free thing, right? Like, I'm going to go and judge a startup competition, and I stayed in touch with people, and that's how it happened. Yeah. Winston, who's here with me, building the company, we worked together in the previous company, and it's been great, and I stayed in touch. And so just the value of, you never know what you're gonna do in the future, and reaching out to people and staying in touch, nurturing the relationships, being kind of a good citizen. That's been valuable, and I would encourage everyone to do it. And even more so if you're young and starting, it's like the value that your personal network will have for you in the future is so huge. And so you should nurture the relationships, and you should even not just in your discipline, in your narrow focus that you have, but even outside in different disciplines, because it can only create value for you and give you perspective. And so, I mean, that's the biggest piece. And you take the people that you value the most with you, from company to company, from team to team. And friendships, of course, as well. Nurture friendships.
Mm-hmm. Cool. Thank you for the advice. Founder Coffee.
My pleasure. Thanks for doing this. This is awesome. I'm really looking forward to listening to the other interviews.
That's it for this episode of Founder Coffee. We hope you liked it. Let the world know if you did. Thanks for listening, guys.